This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. Hey there, Penelope Bent here. Welcome to Build It Baby. If you're interested in building your business, career, or life with intention, then stay tuned. I'm not talking just surface level success. I'm talking success by design. So let's build it, baby. Okay, so let's talk about presentation. And I'm not talking about PowerPoint decks. I'm talking about you. How you show up, how you present yourself, your brand, your capabilities, and what's your attention to detail. I have always been big on presentation and the power of intention. So to me, presentation and understanding the power of presentation is one of the most important details in building that I can possibly share with you. Because your presence speaks before you do. Let's make sure that it says the right thing. Let's look at why first impressions still matter, even in this digital world. So here's my take on what I think is happening and what's been going on. So when COVID hit, we were offered, a new way of doing business. People went from the boardroom to their bedrooms overnight. Some never reset expectations. The hoodies, the unmade beds, the barking dogs. That became the real life on display. So there was this gigantic professional shift when COVID hit. Now, after years of endless Zoom, many now treat those calls as very low-stakes situations, which can unbelievably backfire when it's a job interview or an important meeting. I mean, I could write a book on some of the most disastrous and inconceivable candidate job interviews I have had on Zoom. And I mean, unbelievable. The book would probably be titled Your Job Interview and What Not to Fucking Ever Do. I have seen everything from dirty underwear, including bras hanging out of drawers, unmade beds, empty vodka bottles on the floor, to actually a live body sleeping in the bed behind the candidate. Now, this is a job interview, remember? I mean, are you kidding me? Now, some people might say I'm old school, but I believe how you show up for a job interview or business meeting on screen or a face-to-face in 2025, babe, it still matters. It's not about being fake. It's about being intentional. Because like it or not, your presence says a lot about you and how you may or may not do the job or even deliver the product. In recruiting especially, presentation still matters. Hiring managers notice professionalism. They notice from attire to the background, and it can absolutely influence their perception of you. Today's job market, we talk a lot about authenticity and comfort, and that's great. I get that. That's the cultural thing going on right now. But my question is, has the pendulum swung too far? Is showing up in a collared shirt instead of a t-shirt now considered old school? Or does it still signal professionalism and respect? Honestly, I don't believe it's too much to expect an executive, or anyone really, to show up looking intentional. I'm not saying you need to be in a full suit or, throw your high heels on. But if you're leading people, if you're pitching to clients or showing up on Zoom in a professional space, maybe a collared shirt instead of a t-shirt is not a huge ask. And listen, I get it. The world's gone casual. Authenticity is the word of the day. But somewhere along the way, authentic started being confused with effortless. And believe me, those are two different things. And I see this a lot in the job market. And here's the piece. You can be very authentic with intention. You can be comfortable and yet polished. I mean, it's not a huge stretch here. In fact, I'd argue that's part of leadership. Showing up in a way or a manner that communicates confidence, care, and presence before you even utter a word. So maybe this isn't about collared shirts versus t-shirts. Maybe it's about remembering that how we present ourselves still tells a story. And the question is, what story are you telling? What you wear tells the story before you ever open your mouth. Executives especially are representing brands. They're representing the culture and trust. And that doesn't mean a suit, but it does mean putting some thought into how you're presenting your brand. What is the element of trust a client should have in buying your product? Well, the first view of your product is you. They're buying your product, they're buying you. It's the intention and the view of your competence, the care that goes into your presentation that really does reflect back on your products and your company and the culture of that company. So in my opinion, dressing with care, it's less about fashion. It's more about respect. The respect that you have for the meeting, the respect that you're having for the team. And by God, it's the respect that you have for the opportunity. In today's marketplace, with jobs as difficult as they are to connect with, I would think that if you have the opportunity to bring your best presentation, your best self forward, then I suggest you take a minute and think about how you're going to show up for that opportunity, because that might be the only one that you're going to have this year. Or it may be, one of a series of opportunities that have not been really falling successfully in your lap. So you might want to rethink, has that have anything to do with the way I'm showing up for my interview, for my opportunity, for my meeting? Is my client looking at my presentation and saying, hell no, I wouldn't buy a set of tires from that guy. So presentation is powerful. It matters because you know what? It communicates. It's a silent form of communication. And you can be authentic and polished at the same time. A collared shirt doesn't mean inauthentic. It means you put thought into how you show up for others. So here's why it matters. First impressions still count. Recruiters and hiring managers make judgments in about the first 10 seconds. It signals respect, a neat background, presentable appearance. An attentiveness signals respect for the other person's time. And even in a relaxed climate, candidates who show up polished instantly stand out. I'm big on personal grooming. So if a candidate shows up with chipped nail polish, wet hair, she just jumped out of the shower, I'm sorry, but those are red flags for me. You want to know why? Because if she couldn't get her shit together enough to blow dry her hair and make sure that her hands didn't look scary to me, then my question is, how is she going to show up representing my product or my brand? That's a tell. That's a huge red flag. In professional branding, how you show up on screen is part of that personal brand, just like your LinkedIn profile. Think of that Zoom square as your business card. What does it say about you? Does it say that you're prepared, you're ready, you're qualified for the job? You're ready to represent the company. You're ready to jump into the sales force or whatever job position that you're looking for. A sloppy presentation has cost people jobs. And you're not being old school here. You're being real about what is at stake professionally. If it only takes just a bit of time to make the presentation strong, and you understand what a gigantic difference that makes in the final result, you will find that that little teeny bit of extra effort that you put into it could mean the difference between landing that job, which, would be nice to have right before Christmas this season, and going into 2026 feeling secure about what you're bringing home to feed the babies or go on vacation or whatever the case may be there. So here are a few small Zoom tweaks because we're still, definitely working with Zoom. I would definitely do a background check, tidy up what's in the frame, try to move the laundry piles, the chaos, maybe working with more of a neutral background or bookshelves, or if you have to, throw a virtual background in that works for you. I'm always really nervous about when I do Zoom calls because my office is very full of paintings and art and it's bright. And I know that the trend has been toward this very minimalistic kind of decor. And that just ain't me. So I just have to bring my authentic self, which is always presentable and ready for business. My environment just happens to be a little more creative than many. But, that's me. So they know what they're getting. And then dress a step up, even for remote. Choose clothes that make you feel confident and polished. I always say this, I don't even sit down at my desk until I'm ready for work. I've at least am dressed. I've already showered. I've got my lipstick on and a little bit of mascara, makeup or whatever so that I feel that I'm presenting myself. Even if it's just to me, I feel like I can think because I'm ready for work. I'm not in my casual, leggings to put my feet up and watch a movie. I'm ready to put my mind into that mindset, that professional mindset. And my clothing and that shift into business attire, even when I work remote, that's where I make that emotional and that mental shift. I'm not, casual and kick it back at the PAD. I'm ready to do business, make some money. The other thing, too, is I would definitely look at the lighting and the angle. Face the natural light if possible. But here's something that I learned, especially in the photography business for years. And I've watched this on Zoom, and I always tell candidates that I'm working with that are going into interviews. If you're working with a laptop, raise the camera above your eye level. Put a stack of books on your desk, and then put the laptop on top of the books. And what you want is to especially aim when you're looking up, you want to look up toward the camera. So the camera's coming slightly down on your face. What you don't want is that camera to hit your neck and make you, look like you're a linebacker. It's amazing how when you raise that camera up just above eye level, it actually is a much, much more flattering angle and presentation of your facial structure. And also remember, eyes are so important. Your eye contact, how you are looking through the viewfinder of the laptop, that's very, very important. Make sure that you're looking at the camera. Even though I know so many times we can see ourselves in the right corner, I could count how many females I have interviewed. And if they spend more time looking at themselves and less time looking at me during the conversation, that's a question mark for me, because I really need them to focus on what we're talking about, what we're presenting, whatever the product is. And if they're more interested in fluffing up while they're on camera, then they're basically wasting my time. Use headphones or a mic if you can. I like AirPods. I think those are terrific. It allows you to keep the outside noise distractions so that you can focus on the conversation. And I'll tell you what, if you're working from home, I have no problem letting my family know, hey, I'm running into a meeting, and I usually get the thumbs up, and everybody knows that means, if we could just kind of keep it a bit quieter on the family side of the house. And then eye contact with the camera. You're listening, you're nodding, and not be multitasking. You're doing a job interview or you're discussing, presenting a product. It's not the time to be, responding to one of the emails that popped in on your screen while you're in the middle of the interview. And then absolutely before you start the meeting, test your Zoom links, mute those notifications, have your water nearby. Also making sure that you have the right internet capacity. Do you have the strength that you need so that you're not frozen in the middle of a sentence with your mouth open and glaring at the hiring manager that's trying to interview? And this is not about being stiff or inauthentic. This is about being a pro. This is about being prepared. The current climate in the job market today is stiffer than ever. So if you can get a little bit of an edge, if you can make those sales call or that job interview count, that's really important. That's an important piece of strategy that you can weave in to your approach. And think about it. Who would you hire for your company? Someone you could count on to represent your brand the way that you've intended? I mean, you've worked your butt off to build the business. How do you want someone to represent you? Do you want them to show up with their hair wet, their underwear in the background? I don't think so. If you don't show up from the jump representing your qualifications, then how the hell do you expect to get hired? I just really don't understand it. And I think it's an important detail. You can call me a pain in the butt here, but I really know that that's an important piece of the equation. So if you're a walk-on and you're trying to get into an NFL team, my question always is, would you show up in your flip-flops? Or would you be wearing, cleats or turf shoes, depending upon the field surface? You need to be a participating player here. What are you signaling? Are you signaling competence, polish, preparedness? Are you ready to jump into the game? That's my question. And that's what I want you to look at very closely. And I hope that you will, take my comments to heart, because I think that they could possibly really, really help you, especially in the job market and in the very loud marketplace of selling products today. I think it could give you an edge. I hope those ideas will help you. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. Okay, so here are my knowings. I know that how I show up contributes to 90% of my success. I believe presentation is everything. It is as important as the product that you've laid awake nights trying to build. Number 2, when I'm dressed for business, I know that I have more confidence and can think clearly when I am in work mode. So I know that I bring my best me to the table when I'm confident and when I'm dressed for business. Number 3, I know that I have been given a creative power and that my job is to express and to use that creative power to respond to the ideas I have been given in the most strategic and authentic manner possible. Okay, so those are my knowings. Now it's time for the listener questions. Okay, so here we go. This is Jeff in Naples. Oh, this is a great question. Okay, so this is Jeff in Naples, Florida. And the question is this. I am in technology sales, and I have worked with several startups as well as a long run with Cisco. Yet, I have been sending out my resume for months and have not even received an interview request. I know that you're in recruiting, and I wondered if you could help me or give me a few suggestions. Oh, Jeff, absolutely. I know that the job market is very cumbersome right now. We've had many layoffs in tech. So let's look at your resume first. I know that there's a lot to be said about resumes. People run them through AI and so on because they're trying to get certain keywords that will have these companies in tech pop you up to the top of the resume pile because there's a billion resumes that are going in for these technical jobs. I understand that. But when you structure your resume, one of the things that I have been noticing lately is that it appears when you run as a recruiter, and I think if the recruiting company or the company is using any AI, that it will flag the resume as what we call a jumper. And a jumper is when you see on a resume employment for very, very short runs. And the hiring managers that I have worked with for many of the companies that my company works with, you can't try to talk them out of the idea that this really wasn't about being a jumper. And what a jumper means, okay, well, I worked there for 18 months and I really wasn't that excited about that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try this over here. And yeah, I was there about 14, 15 months and wasn't really wild about that either. I couldn't make my quota. So I'm going to jump over to this next one. And you do not want that. You do not want to come across as a jumper. And what I think is happening when I have been digging deeper with some of those resumes that I've been reviewing, that once I reached out and spoke to the candidate, it really wasn't about them choosing to make a move. What's happening right now is you'll let's say you were with Cisco, then I'd bet you dollars to donuts that you went to a startup. And what ended up happening there is that they may have not been able to get, their next round of funding. So your sales team would have been downsized because of the lack of that additional funding that startup was given. So you were given perhaps a small severance, but bottom line is that your division or you personally were cut from what they felt they could afford to move forward in their sales department. And then you had an opportunity, you went from there to perhaps another startup. And let's say that startup was terrific, but you went through 5 sales managers in the first 5 months you were there. There was no plan. You were trying to sell a product, but they weren't completely, you didn't have the support that you needed, and so on and so forth. So you couldn't make any money. You maybe had a decent base salary, but not enough to make it worth your while. And perhaps that may have been why you left. So what my suggestion is that when you put the dates on the resume, right where it'll say, let's say 2022, I'm with so-and-so, 2022 to 2024, then do just a little double dash and just in quotes, was downsized due to a RIF, reduction in force. Or entire team was eliminated due to the fact that we were purchased by so-and-so. Don't make the recruiter have to try to look into a crystal ball to find out that you're that you have legitimate reasons why things did not work out with those startups, or with, it doesn't even have to be a startup. I mean, it could be a big company that, just laid off 400 people or 4,000 people or whatever the case may be. I would just put in quotes, maybe in italics, just 10 words as to what happened there, so that they do not have to assume that you were jumping because you were dissatisfied, that it was really not about you. It was about things that were, outside of your control. Any of those short runs, put the reason. So that's number one. Number two, when you prepare your resume, read the job description of the technology company very carefully. Read what their key points are. They always list it. What do they want? 5 to 10 years in cybersecurity. Preferred knowledge of this, that, or the other thing. And when you write on your, when you create your resume, and you have that, little teeny paragraph up there that kind of sums up who you are, rather than I'm result oriented, which everybody puts, make it a little more detailed to drive home exactly what they're asking for in the job description. So in other words, if they're saying 8 to 10 years in cybersecurity, and you know that this particular company is very into pen testing or whatever, then 10 plus years in working in pen testing, whatever they're asking for. And if you've done that, then weave that in to the paragraph that you need to write. And if you need to go to ChatGPT for ideas on the sentence structure or whatever, go ahead and do that. But make that paragraph say exactly the parts and pieces that you're bringing to the table that match the job description. I don't mean word for word. I'm talking about the skill. Say that right off the bat. We don't want to hear that you learn fast. Take that completely out of your vocabulary. Nobody wants to hear that you learn fast. They don't care, because if you don't have the pieces that they feel are so important, it doesn't matter whether you're going to learn. They don't want to take the time to teach you. You have to know this stuff. So list out those few important pieces that you can grab from the job description. The other piece that I think is so amazingly important, and it blew me away at so few people do this. Make sure that your LinkedIn profile is exactly the match to your resume and what you want to say about the description of what you're going after here. In other words, same thing. I was with so-and-so, riff due to a downsizing. Make those notes there, but match it up. And here's why. 9 times out of 10, a recruiter will write up, we'll do what we do. We'll have a phone screen with you or a Zoom interview. And then we write up 8 to 10 years cybersecurity, 45 years in SLED, understands encryption and authentication certificates and protocols, whatever we are writing. His quota has been 1.5 million. He's exceeded quotas in 22, 23, 24 by 118% or whatever the case may be. He's used to deal size of 200K to 1 million, and he understands his sales cycles are anywhere from 3 months to 18 months, whatever the case is. You want your LinkedIn profile to match, because when we write that up and we send it to the hiring manager for review, it'll say what our written review is, all the high points of your resume. Your resume will be attached, and in addition, it will say your name, whatever the description of the job is, along with your LinkedIn link, so that hiring manager, very seldom will they, when they have their review, they don't click on that attached resume. They hit that LinkedIn live link to look at your profile. And if your profile reflects exactly what that job description is, or the highlights of your pieces and parts of that job description that you know how to do, then we'll get a note back that says, great, set him up for an interview. But that LinkedIn profile, 90% of the time, either has not been updated or it completely is like looking at two different people. So those are just off the top of my head, a couple of things that I think could improve your odds. And I know that it's very painful. It's very frustrating, but I would still keep throwing my hat into the ring and get yourself out there. Great question also, Jeff. Thanks so much. Well, it's that time. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Build It, Baby. And just a reminder, professionalism didn't die in 2020. It may just look a bit different now. And how you show up, it still matters. Prompt, prepared, and professional will serve you well. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. Always best, P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original, hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashin and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or a career, you're building a bold life.